Welcome to Week 7 of Prospect Basketball Weekly. I'm your host, Paul Evers, joined once again by Coach Cameradella. Coach, thanks for joining us once again.
Nice to be back, Paul.
Just a little message to our viewers before we start. Apologies for last week. We had some technical difficulties with Week 6, so we were not able to get that up, but we are back now, and we are revving to go. First, looking at last Friday's conference matchup against Rolling Meadows. So first, let's go with the headliner. Frankie Mack scores his 1,000th point, finally gets to that mark in his career. How impressive is that mark?
You know, it's going into the game, we knew how close he was. He was within 12 points, and a distinguished alumni named Mike Korsak, who graduated here back in 1966, sitting up in the stands with Bob Frisk, who's the longtime writer for the Daily Herald, now retired. And I went up and I asked them, I go, just off the top of their heads, how many men did they know hit 1,000 points? And they could name two others, and I could name two. So there's still a little more history to be done, but in our collective thought is that Frankie's only the 5th player in Prospect history to do this. That's 60 years of basketball, and obviously we could say the three-point line helps, but the only other player that I've coached in my 14 years that's done is Mike LaTulip, who's our school's all-time leading scorer. Just a feat that you just have to be very good and consistently good. You need to stay healthy, which is what Frank has done, and you need to be surrounded by teammates who understand your talent and understand that getting you the ball in right situations is going to help everybody. So though it is an individual accomplishment for Frankie, which I know he's very proud of and should be, first thing he did was go and thank his teammates, and his teammates know that.
And then next achievement we're looking for, Matt Zuba, who will be our player guest today, is now 32 rebounds away from setting the school record. How impressive is it to be that dominant on the boards when usually he is either, in the East he's usually one of the tallest players, but not in conference games, he's definitely going up against guys that are at his size or even a couple inches on him.
Yeah, I mean it's about being relentless. It's about being constantly focused on getting to the glass. In the Meadows game he had 16 rebounds. So you're going to have games like that, but he's averaging 9.5 right now. The biggest thing I think when it comes to rebounding is if you notice in our offensive system, a lot of times we're entering the ball through Matt. So he's catching it in between the elbows, he's catching it at the high post, and that keeps him away from the basket. So he's not just standing down there. And a lot of times defensively, teams, rightfully so, will bring him away from the basket on ball screens. And so he's not just a block-to-block player. So the rebounds he gets, he really has to go out of his way to go in there and get it and mix it up a little bit. And he's been doing it for 3 years now, and hopefully he continues on that path and he's able to get the record because he earns it. He definitely has earned it.
And then in that Meadows game, you guys did struggle a little bit from the field. It was 4-20 from three-point line, but you guys made up for the free throw line, 26 of 35, a lot of attempts.
Yeah.
What does it mean to your team that you guys can have a little bit of an off-shooting night and still be able to pull away with a win in a huge conference matchup?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at our practice report almost every day, I put at the top, there's multiple ways to win a basketball game. And I keep trying to drill that into our guys' heads. And I think they realize it, is that when they look at a game, shooting poorly from the field is okay as long as you're defending and rebounding. If you're not where you need to be defending and rebounding, your shots better be going in. All right, so there's plenty of ways to win a game, and on the flip side, to lose a game. So what we're doing now, and what has sort of been our calling card all year, is we're just figuring out ways to win. And it's something that is proven through maturity, through experience, and through a real deep trust in each other. That this team understands that it doesn't need to be just one guy. It just needs to be one team, and they've been doing it all year, and I hope it continues.
And with that shooting, I mean, maybe the only one gripe Frankie could have about setting the record is he did it from the free throw line because his shot was struggling, but a lot of shots were like halfway down, bouncing out. How frustrating is it as a coach to watch shots be on line, be so close to falling down, and just pop out?
You want me to be honest?
Yes.
It's not at all.
Not at all?
It's what I tell our guys, and it's one of the reasons that we smile so much even when we're not knocking down shots, is that from our freshman to our varsity level is we coach the type of shot that's taken, not whether or not it goes in. Every person in the world who ever steps on a basketball court wants every shot to go in, and we know that's not the case. If you look at the best shooters in the world, they're missing every other shot, if you think of it that way. And so for us, And the way I watch the game is I watch the type of shots we're taking. I don't watch whether or not they go in. And so though our players rightfully are probably individually frustrated, I'll be the first one to remind them at halftime that next shot, you got to shoot it again, you got to knock it down. I always tell them we're hot or we're about to get hot. And that's the only two options I allow them mentally to think, when they're out on the court ready to shoot.
And then big development in the East Friday night.
Mm-hmm.
Hersey did fall to Buffalo Grove, meaning you guys now have sole possession of first place in the division. How important is it for you guys to have that first place title and to continue playing out the rest of the season, continuing to keep that title?
Yeah, I'd take the latter part of your statement. How important is it right now? Well, right now it's nice, but it doesn't really do anything for us yet. We've got Wheeling this Friday, then Elk Grove, followed by Hersey. So we can't take any game for granted. We can't look past any game. We absolutely still have to win the Hersey game, but that only will matter if we take care of Wheeling and Elk Grove. So, we went through a very thorough scout. Even though this will be the third time we play Wheeling in 5 weeks, it's making sure our guys, and even if you were in practice yesterday, making sure our guys are locked in. They play a very solid 1-3-1 zone. They're changing their low coverage a little bit based on the last films we've been able to watch. And our guys will go in and hopefully execute the game plan and be able to be proud of their effort when the game's done.
Then the end of the month of January, you guys played Glenbrook North. You guys were able to beat them in regulation for the first time in 2 years. You guys had a commanding lead throughout most of the game, but as the game started towards the end of the third quarter, Glenbrook North put in a half-court trap, and that really threw off your guys' timing, and turnovers were created by that. How hard is it to adjust on the fly to something like that you guys said you've never seen before, and to try and adjust and continue to keep a lead and continue to play solid basketball when they change up the defense?
It's a great question. The biggest thing that Glenbrook North threw 4 different defenses at us through the first 2.5 quarters. They're notorious from going 1-3-1 to a 2-3 to a man to a diamond and one press. So it's a lot to adjust to, especially when you only have 1 day to prep. And then when they went to that trap, it was a 5th or possibly even 6th, defense that our guys had to face. And I think they'd be the first to tell you, we didn't take care of the ball on a few possessions. And when they did go to that press and we got to the free throw line, we missed the front end of 1-and-1s, which sort of extended our problem. The game was never out of hand. I think offensively, we went a little quiet. We had 25 shot attempts in the first half. We only had 13 in the second half. So it was a complete different effort with regards to being able to get shots up. And you got to credit GBN. Dave Weber's a state championship coach. He's going to be in the IBCA Hall of Fame. He's one of the best to do it in this area in a very long time. And we respect him and his program for that. And that was another case of a coach recognizing at halftime that the pace of the game wasn't going in his favor. He changed it, and his team, followed him on that. And I was just proud of our guys for lasting it out and getting the win.
And then with that win over GBN, that put you guys to 7-0 in January. Mm-hmm. What kind of accomplishment is it to go undefeated in the month of January?
Yeah, we've never done that before. We've never gone an entire month without losing. I think now, from what I last looked, I think we've won 14 of 15 games. Next game. And I think that's the best thing our guys said, is that they know where they want to go, but they still have to focus on the present. And I think that's what's allowed us to continually approach each game as an individual, opportunity. And that's where we're looking to go next, is Wheeling next, and then we have to go to Lions next Saturday.
All right, thank you, Coach. We will be back to preview those games in a little bit. Next up is player guest, Matt Zuba.
Welcome back to Week 7 of Prospect Basketball Weekly. I'm your co-host, Jack Ankeny, and now I'm joined by player Matt Zuba. So, Matt, it's good to have you today.
Thanks for having me.
All right, so first off, you've been a pretty versatile player for the Knights this year. How would you describe your role on the team?
I kind of do a lot. There's games where I won't score, and I'll have a bunch of rebounds and some assists. And there's games that will be flipped. I just want to help the team in any way that I can, and then if whatever works, works.
Okay, so I think it was the Chicago Tribune had an article after the Buffalo Grove game when you had one of your better games of the year. They called you the Polish Army knife.
Yeah.
So I guess what did you think about that?
I thought it was kind of cool. I never thought about it that way. We just went out there and played basketball, and I just by chance played a better game.
All right. So, something that you kind of have done this year that has stood out is you and Grant Selmer have hooked up on a couple alley-oops. So, what kind of energy does it bring to the team when you guys have plays like that?
There's people that say that a dunk is just worth 2 points, but a dunk is much more. It's a momentum changer. It brings a little more energy to the bench. It just hypes up everybody, and we play better if it happens.
All right. So, Coach Camardella told us that you're now 32 rebounds away
Mhm.
from the school record. So I guess has that been like on your mind at all, or I guess how would that be impacting your play at all?
Taking it back all the way to freshman year, me and Antonio Gardner, like before we even like knew the program well enough, like we'd set goals for ourselves. I said I wanted to break the rebounding record, and the fact that I'm even close to it now, it blows my mind, and I can't wait to get it.
Okay. So you guys had pretty big wins over Wheeling and EG the last couple times you played them. But how important would you say is it to like not overlook them, knowing that you guys have a big matchup with Hersey if you beat Wheeling and Elk Grove?
Yeah, we can't overlook any game. Every time we play Wheeling, it's their Super Bowl. Or, matter of fact, any team in the East, it's their Super Bowl. We can't overlook them. We have to come out strong and play the game we have been lately.
All right, so now as you approach the final stretch of MSL East games, you have Wheeling, Elk Grove, and then Hersey. What's kind of the team's focus heading into this final stretch?
Taking it one game at a time. Just playing together, playing well, and not overlooking any opponent, as you said.
Okay, thanks, Matt. And now we'll be joined by special guest, Athletic Director Tom Martindale. Thanks.
His playing up, so I think it's all like 4 or 5 minutes.
Welcome back to Week 7 of Prospect Basketball Weekly. I'm your co-host, Jack Ankeny, and now our special guest for today is Athletic Director Tom Martindale. So, Mr. Martindale, it's good to have you here.
Yeah, thanks for being.
All right.
Good. Thanks for inviting me.
Yeah. All right, so to start off, what kind of culture would you say you try to build at Prospect as the Athletic Director?
Well, I think a positive one. I think that's one that's student-centered, that comes, as the students build it, and that one is positive. And, of course, I think a lot of our coaches, really are the people that do that. And so it kind of goes through the coaches and goes through those programs, but that's somewhat of the goal as far as that goes.
Okay. So what kind of expectations or standard do you try to hold for Prospect Sports?
Well, there's several. I guess, one of the things is good sportsmanship, as far as, how you handle yourself in whatever environment you're in. Being competitive, doing the best that you can, and then respecting the game, whatever game it is, whether it's you're playing water polo or basketball or football, but the respect of that game, being competitive, and displaying good sportsmanship to the opponent and also to the officials.
Okay. How do you describe like your relationship or involvement with each of the coach of like each team?
Of each of our programs?
Yeah.
Well, it's individual. So we have 13 different head coaches in the boys program. So it's each one is different. With Coach Camardella, it's different than it is with Coach Renault of track or whatever the case may be. But try to have a good relationship, good rapport with each individual.
Okay, so obviously this year's basketball team has had a lot of success. So what does it mean for the school when a team like this is having such a successful year?
Well, it's a lot of fun. Because what happens is the students are having fun. And I give a lot of credit to the coaches and the players, It's a good, and then the students seem to ride that wave, catch that fever, whatever you want to call that. But it's a lot of fun when those things happen.
All right. What have you seen from like this year's team that has kind of stood out to you?
Well, a couple of things. Number one, the ability, I think, that the way they share things as far as out on the basketball floor. They share the ball as good as, they're very unselfish, and that's really nice to see in a team. The other thing is they've worked very hard. These are kids or players that, I've seen for 4 years, and they've put in a lot of time, and it means a lot to them, and I really respect the time and the effort that they've put in, and it's nice to see all of that time and effort come into some success.
All right. So from what you've seen from in games, what would you say makes this year's team special compared to maybe in the years past?
A lot of weapons. I think that when you look at that and you say, well, who are you gonna try? hey, we're going to cover Mac and shut him down. Well, what about, someone else? Is David could do something, or Zuba could do something, or Zelmer could do something, or somebody can come off the bench and do something. So I think that there's a lot of people that can do things for this basketball team and have done things for this basketball team.
Okay, thanks, Mr. Martindale. And next we will be joined back with Coach Camardella to preview Friday's game.
Thank you.
AKA the Denver Nuggets.
Welcome back to Week 7 of Prospect Basketball Weekly, sponsored by Buffalo Wild Wings. I am joined once again by Coach Camardella. Coach, thanks for joining us once again.
Always.
So here we go. We got Friday Wheeling conference matchup. They lost 7 straight, but now they've won their last 3,
Mm-hmm.
and they're 10-10 overall. But how easy is it to fall into a mental trap against a team like Wheeling that has just kind of middle of the road record?
Well, I think both teams know each other extremely well. TJ Best and Jalen Dennis have been, 2 staples in their program, and 2 guys that I respect highly. A couple of the best athletes that are in the MSL, and it's always a challenge because I know how competitive that team is, and so our guys know them well. They know us well. I think more than anything, our guys realize this is more than likely the last time we'll face Wheeling, and that these guys will go against each other in their careers. So I think our guys are putting it in perspective, is that we're not looking at what's happened in the past. We're preparing for this game. It's the first time we've played them. So our guys are excited. I'm pretty sure those guys are excited as well.
And they were down 7-0 early against Meadows a couple weeks ago, but they fought back to a pretty commanding victory. How do you keep a scrappy team from taking over a game when pretty much what they're playing for is pride, and that means a lot to a player? Absolutely.
I mean, I'd be the first one to say, if we're speaking honestly, we went into Wheeling last year and they beat us. TJ Best had probably his best game of the year last year and doing the exact thing that you just referenced. You can never underestimate a team. And if you watch that Meadows game, there was a stretch in the third quarter where they hit 6 threes, right? It shows you that any varsity team can go on a run like that if you're not ready. And for us, we play a little bit different defensive system than Rolling Meadows. But 4 different guys were part of that 6 three-pointer run in the third quarter. And so they have very capable players. For us, it's never about completely limiting them. It's just about making things difficult when they shoot and keeping them out of rhythm.
Right, and then I was going to bring up getting hot with those 3-pointers, that 6 3-pointers, but obviously, like you said, you have TJ Best, Jalen Dennis, Johnny Keppel. They're all great athletes because they also play football. So how do you try and keep them off the 3-point line, but also keep them from getting to the basket, because that's what they want to do with their athleticism? Yeah, we've worked a lot, and Rathy has really drilled our guys on closing out on balance, closing out with active hands. The shots are going to go up. I think there's 2 things we have to be aware of: is our closeout angles, our rotation angles, and then obviously with the long shots that go up, a lot of times if they don't go in, it's long rebounds. And so it's a complete awareness that when you're playing against a team like Wheeling, that they're quick enough and strong enough to get shots off as well as get to the basket. So it'll be a challenge for our guys, and they'll be ready. And then after that conference matchup, you guys will take your second to last non-conference matchup, possibly against Lions, before the regular season is over. It's another back-to-back situation, obviously, the Friday game and then the Saturday game. How do you guys try and treat those back-to-back situations? Yeah, we talked about this earlier, but we try and put together one of the more difficult non-conference schedules. Playing local teams that have had a lot of success over the last decade. Coach Tom Sloan's a really good friend of mine. He's part of the Horseshoe contingent of guys who run that camp up in Wisconsin, so we know each other very well. And we just both really respect each other's programs. We know it's good for both of us to get a different look. Lions is Connor Niego, who's going to Holy Cross. He's the matchup nightmare. He's 6'7", 6'8", shoots, dribbles, attacks the rim. So it's a great challenge for our guys going down to LaGrange, where it might be one of the largest high school gyms in the state of Illinois. And our guys enjoy it. We've played Lions now, I think, for the last 6 or 7 straight years. And so it's about taking care of Friday night and then going down on a very short scout and preparing to play a very good Lions team, much like we did against Stevenson and like we did against Hinsdale Central. And as you said, you guys try and put together a very tough non-conference schedule. And this year you guys have done a great job of beating that non-conference schedule. How important is it to say as a team that you guys are able to put together such great performances in the non-conference season? Yeah, I just went back and looked a couple of nights ago, and it's been 5 years since we finished with a 500 or an over 500 record in our non-conference schedule.
You know, we had to go back to 2011 where we finished with an over 500 non-conference schedule. We only get 5 of them. And so we've been 1-4, 2-3 the last 5 years. And so for this year, right now, we're 3-0. And so it's important for us and for our guys to notice that there's some years that we get clipped a lot going on the road or even hosting these teams. But we do that all with the intention of trying to help our guys see where they're at. And we feel that playing the best competition, expose your weaknesses, and also let you know if you can run your offense, run your defense, and be successful against teams of that caliber. And pretty sure Friday and Saturday in particular are going to be, another example for us to test.
And then 5 games here left in the regular season before possibly an MSL Conference Championship game. What are you looking for your team to do as you wrap up this season?
I think the biggest thing, handling the ball against pressure, has been the one thing that we've done okay with. It hasn't been awful, but it's still something we must get better at. Our guys know that. We've worked on it in practice yesterday. We're going to work on it again today. Guys can expect it all next week. Handling pressure, and then again, just with all teams, I think time and situation. That we keep putting them in situations in practice to mirror what it looks like games. So like up 6 with 2 minutes to go. What type of shot are we looking for? What type of defense are we in? Constantly reminding our guys so that they can play with supreme confidence, knowing that anybody's on the floor understands time and situation and what we're looking to accomplish at that time of the game.
Thanks, Coach.
Absolutely.
We will see you next week. This has been Week 7 of Prospect Basketball Weekly. I'm your host, Paul Evers, and for Jack Ankeny, we will see you next week.